up loud because my court reporter is going to have to hear you, okay?
Okay.
Let's be on the record, case number 2019-CR1421, captioned State of Kansas versus Kiyon Anthony. Would the parties announce their appearances, please?
Please, the court, State of Kansas appears by Daryl Smith, appearing for Maurice Brewer.
Your Honor, Charles Lamb for the defendant, Mr. Anthony, who appears via video in my office.
All right. We are here set down for a plea hearing today. My understanding also is that the parties at the end of this plea are going to ask me to waive PSI since it's a misdemeanor case and proceed directly to sentencing. I have no issue doing that. Mr. Anthony, to take up your plea, I'm going to have to ask you a lot of questions, okay? If I ask you something that you don't understand, you tell me that. So you and I can talk about it until we're sure that we both understand each other, okay? If you want to talk to Mr. Lamb before you answer any question, you just tell me that. Mr. Lamb will mute his microphone. You guys can have a private conversation and then come back when you're done, okay?
Yes, sir. All
right. To ask you these questions, I have to swear you in. So if you'd raise your right hand, my court reporter will swear you
in. You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Sir, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry?
Yes,
Speak up, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Anthony, how far did you can put your hand down. How far did you go in school?
I finished all the way through 12th grade.
All right. You read and write okay?
Yes.
As you sit here today, are you under the influence of any alcohol or drugs or prescription medicine that might keep you from understanding what you're doing today?
No.
Feel like your mind's clear?
Yes.
All right. You know what you're charged with, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you understand you don't have to change your plea from not guilty to guilty. You could maintain your not guilty plea and you would have a right to a jury trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
At that trial, the state would have to put on enough evidence to prove you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. You wouldn't have to prove anything yourself. You understand that? Mr. Lamb would help you throughout that case. He'd cross-examine, confront all of the state's witnesses and their evidence. He could call anybody you wanted called. If they didn't want to come to court, he could use the court's subpoena power to make them come to court. You would have a right to testify at that trial, but you'd also have a right not to testify. And if you decided not to, the state couldn't use that against you to try and prove you guilty. Do you understand that?
Sure.
If we had that...
I'm sorry. I heard something, but it wasn't clear.
Speak up, please, Mr. You understand that, what I just told you?
Yes, sir.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Make sure you keep your voice up. You're pretty far from the camera, so it's kind of hard to hear you.
Okay.
All right. So if we had that full trial, at the end of that trial, you were found guilty, you would have a right to appeal that conviction to an appellate court. If you didn't have the money for a lawyer to do that, one would be appointed to do it for you. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Now, if we do this plea today, you're going to be giving up all of those rights. There's not going to be any kind of trial in this case whatsoever. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm going to put a document up here. You're a little bit far from the camera, but I want to know if you can see this. Can you see that document that I just put up?
Judge, you're kind of out of frame, and there it is. There it is.
Yeah. All right. Can you see that, Mr. Anthony?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, sir.
All right. That's the plea petition that Mr. Lamb went over with you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, okay, I'm back on that. In this plea petition, I'm going to scroll down here on it for a second. There's a plea agreement. I'm going to read that to you. Defendant will plead guilty to 2 counts of possession of marijuana, which are Class B misdemeanors, and 1 count of criminal use of a weapon, also a Class B non-person misdemeanor. Count 2 will, parties will recommend I run count 2 consecutive to count 1, but run count 3 concurrent to the other 2 counts. Parties will jointly recommend 1 year of probation to adult court services with a 1 year underlying jail sentence. You are to obtain a substance abuse and a mental health evaluation and follow those recommendations. Mr. Anthony, is that your understanding of the entire plea agreement?
Yes.
All right. Has anybody promised you anything else to get you to plead guilty today?
No.
Anyone placed any force or threats against you to make you plead guilty today?
No, sir.
Now, it talks about what the parties are going to recommend as a sentence in this case. And I'm going to listen very closely here in a few minutes to what everybody recommends. My expectation is I'll follow those recommendations, but you understand that I'm not bound by them, and I can give you any sentence that the law allows me to give you. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
The maximum sentence for these charges is 6 months each in jail, and those could be run consecutively. So the maximum that anybody could get for pleading to these would be 18 months in jail. Do you understand that?
Sir.
There's also maximum fine of $1,000 for each count, which would be $3,000 total as a maximum. Do you understand that?
Sir.
All right. Do you have any questions for me about anything that we went over today?
As of right now, not really.
Okay, well, right now is an important time because I'm about to ask you how you plead to these 3 counts. So if you have any questions, either for me or Mr. Lamb, we need to know them now because I'm going to ask you for your plea.
No.
Okay, all right. As to count 1, the charge of possession of marijuana, a Class B misdemeanor, how do you plead? Guilty or not guilty?
Yes.
All right. Hey, speak up now. As to count 2, also possession of marijuana, a Class B misdemeanor. How do you plead? Guilty or not guilty?
Sorry.
Speak
you
up,
need to speak
please.
Guilty.
Thank you. And as to count 3, criminal use of weapon, a Class B non-person misdemeanor. How do you plead? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
All right. Now, Mr. Anthony, I'm going to want you to listen closely because I'm going to ask Mr. Smith to tell me what he thinks the evidence would be if this case went to trial. And when he's done, I'm going to ask you if that's what happened in this case, okay?
Okay.
Mr. Smith.
Judge, if this matter were to proceed to trial, my understanding of the state's evidence is as follows, that on the 23rd day of December of 2019 in Wyandotte County, Kansas, Trooper Brandon Leopold conducted a traffic stop in the area of I-70 west of 18th Street in Wyandotte County. During the stop of that black Kia Rio, he conducted a search of the defendant, Kiyon Anthony, and located in his front pocket a small baggie, which subsequently was tested by the KBI and found to contain marijuana. He also located a backpack in that vehicle, which was Mr. Anthony's backpack, which contained more marijuana, which was subsequently tested by the Kansas Bureau of Investigation as well, and a Smith & Wesson semi-automatic pistol with an extended cartridge that held 32 bullets in the magazine. At the time of these actions, the defendant, Mr. Anthony, was an unlawful user of that controlled substance, marijuana, and addicted to the same. All of these actions occurred in Wyandotte County, Kansas.
All right. Mr. Anthony, did you hear what the prosecutor just said?
Yes.
Is that what happened in this case?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. I find that the defendant has freely, voluntarily, and intelligently waived his constitutional rights and entered his plea of guilty. He understands the nature of the charges and the consequences of the plea. There is a factual basis for a finding of guilt, and I will in fact find that he is guilty of the 3 charges as he has pled. Parties have waived pre-sentence investigation, and we are prepared to go forward with sentencing today. Mr. Smith, comments upon sentencing today.
Judge, I would ask that the court adopt the plea negotiations. This was negotiated between Mr. Brewer and Mr. Lamb. And certainly, I think that it's a plea that the court should consider adopting. I would ask that the court assess the $400 KBI lab fee. There were 3 KBI tests in this case. And the state is not requesting a fine. That was not part of the negotiations.
And I think the lab fee, if the drugs were actually tested, is mandatory. So, all right. Anything else, Mr. Smith?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Lamb, comments upon sentencing.
Your Honor, I've gotten to know Mr. Anthony over the course of this litigation, but more importantly, I know his mother and his grandfather. I can tell you that what the court orders, he will do. His parents, his mother is very concerned and very active in his life. And I can tell you this, he's got the parental support to turn this around. With that said, Judge, the only thing I have talked to Mr. Anthony about in the last few months is what is he going to do next? He has a strong ambition to finish trade school. He wants to get certifications. I've given him some ideas of what he can do with that. He is singly focused on trying to complete some sort of training to get a trade. So I think he's going to do that. And Judge, I think he'll walk down the paper and he'll do well. He's got all the motivation. And we talked about a lot of things, including don't carry a gun. A lot of things. He sees that. So we would just ask the court to adopt the plea agreement and give him that chance on probation.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Anthony, now is your opportunity to tell me anything you want me to know in mitigation of your sentence today.
Well, I've been looking into my trade school because I was.
Speak up. Hold on. My court reporter's got to be able to hear you, so I need you to speak up loud. You got a really soft voice, okay?
I've been looking into my trade school, my KCC, where I was going there for 2 months, but I had stopped going because I didn't have the other transportation to get there, and I've been trying to get back into it. And my principal, Ms. Carter from Sligo High School, she's been trying to help me get back, like road.
I'm sorry, he cut out.
Your principal's been trying to help you do what?
She's been trying to help me get back enrolled into school, but all the coronavirus, stuff
Right.
that's going on, I don't know if she hasn't got back to me with it. So I just been waiting on her to call me back and let me know when she gonna take me up there to help me get back enrolled in school. And I'm trying to get certifications for carpentry, plumbing, and two of my majors that I want to do is auto collision or welding. So whenever because Miss Carter is like my one of my family members, so she's basically trying to help me get back straight, get back on the right track, so I won't be doing nothing other than what I just did in December.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So as you're trying to get into trade school, what are you doing with yourself? Are you employed? What are you doing?
I'm currently unemployed right now.
Judge, I got him in contact, and I'm trying to get him working with Charles Davis. So we're trying to get him employed right now. He's got a lot of backing. Let me say that.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, Mr. Lamb, you or your client know any legal reason why I should not now proceed to sentencing?
No, Your Honor.
All right. I am going to follow the plea agreement. In count 1, the defendant will be sentenced to 6 months in a county jail. Count 2, he will be ordered to serve 6 months in county jail. And count 3, he will be ordered to serve 6 months in county jail. Counts 1 and 2 will run consecutively to each other. Count 3 concurrently with the other 2. His application for probation is considered and it is granted to adult court services for a period of 1 year. There will be no fine. I'm going to waive court costs and supervision fee, given that will be a hardship for the defendant who's applying to trade school and who's currently unemployed. However, I don't believe that I can waive the KBI test fee, so I'm going to impose that. Mr. Lamb is retained, so there is no attorney fee. I think that covers all of the sentencing. This isn't a felony, so all those advisements don't need to be made. You do have 14 days from today, Mr. Anthony, to appeal anything about the sentence that you don't like. Mr. Lamb can tell you about that. And thinking, Mr. Smith, anything else that I failed to cover today?
Judge, I don't have it at my fingertips. Perhaps Mr. Lamb could assist. How many jail days does the defendant have credit for, Mr. Lamb?
5 days.
He thinks 5 days, but I'm not certain.
Okay. I'm gonna put 5 days.
Okay.
That would be all.
All right, Mr. Lamb, anything you can think of that I didn't cover today?
No, Your Honor. I just,
All right.
I'd like a little direction. Do I send him to adult services or does he call?
Call over there, 2846. Yeah, I'd hope you two would call right as soon as we hang up here and let them know that he just got sentenced and what his sentence was. I think they're going to want from me the docket sheet and the journal entry. So I'm sure Mr. Smith will be getting that over to me. We'll get it signed and they'll probably give him instructions whether he should come right in or wait for them to contact him. I'm not sure what they're going to want to do.
Judge, I'll call right when we get done and give him the case number and tell him what happened.
Sounds good. All right. Anything else for our record today?
Not by the defendant.
Judge, I'm going to have the misdemeanor journal entry scanned and sent to Mr. Lamb. He can approve it and email it forward to the court. Also, I believe both parties have received the first amended information.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We are adjourned. Good luck to you, Mr. Anthony. Everybody.